everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Bookletical Club. So I could not post a video for the past few months, but here I am today bringing a new video on one of my favorite book genres, which is psychological thrillers. Now first, let me tell you a little bit about what a psychological thriller actually means. Now we all do know what a thriller means. It has a detective component to it, an element of mystery, and it is always full of suspense and intrigue. And when it becomes a psychological thriller, it contains an underlying story about a psychological condition that one or a few characters may be experiencing. And this makes the story more interesting and even more intellectually arousing, intellectually stimulating. So there are many things that I have learned from psychological thrillers. Different conditions that people may be experiencing, different psychological dimensions that the people are coming from, and it can make a person more empathetic and more realistic when looking at the world. So today I'm going to talk about few of the most interesting and most intellectually stimulating psychological thrillers that I have read so far. And I need to tell you that some of these books are not for the faint-hearted, as well as those who are in sensitive conditions, maybe like expecting mothers. And this cannot be recommended for children as well. So I will mention these when I'm talking about each book individually. So let's start with the first book, which is Gone Girl. So the first book I have selected is Gone Girl, which is a book that has created a lasting impact on me, and it has left me speechless, breathless after reading it. So I would definitely recommend it to you if you are looking for a good psychological thriller to read. So when the book Gone Girl begins, it begins with a gaping mystery. A seemingly perfect woman called Amy has gone missing from her marital home. She's wonderful, she's beautiful, she behaves perfectly, and everyone has portrayed her as the perfect woman that anyone can have. But when the story begins to unfold, we learn that Amy is not what she appears to be. She is someone with a narcissistic personality disorder. She is all about herself and she loves to control everyone around her. And there are many attributes to her that makes her a very twisted character. As the story begins to unravel, we will come across a very surprising plot twist at the middle of the book, which will definitely leave you breathless. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to read this book. It is full of surprises and you really cannot predict what's going to happen next. There is a movie that is made out of the book as well, but I suggest that you read the book first before watching the movie, which is also a very good movie, but as always the book contains a lot more than the film has portrayed. So do read this book and let me know what you think. So the second book I have selected is The Girl on the Train, which is another sensational psychological thriller. This book contains the main character called Rachel, who is a woman in her mid-30s, and she had recently divorced her husband and she had gone through a lot of issues. She has gone through alcoholism, infertility and abuse, and as a result she is suffering depression, and since she feels like her life is not worth, she has nothing much to do with her life at that point, and she enjoys commuting back and forth from London, and she enjoys spying on a gorgeous couple whom she sees on her trips. And there is a gorgeous girl and a handsome man whom she spies on, because she feels very low about her own life, he enjoys spying on this beautiful couple just because she thinks that they have the picture perfect life which she yearns for and which she has not been blessed with. And when she was spying on them during her commutes, one day she finds out that this gorgeous woman cheats on her husband with another man, which makes Rachel furious. And this incident makes her even more interested in their lives, and she begins her own little investigation into their lives, and suddenly one day she sees something very surprising that changed Rachel's life forever. And starting from that moment, she is not just a girl on the train who is watching them from afar, but rather she becomes a part of their own lives. And many surprising details begin to unravel, and what she has observed from afar becomes a part of her own life as well, in a very unpredictable and a very surprising way. I'm not going to tell you, of course, what it is about, but this story is full of suspense. It is sensational, and it will definitely leave you up throughout the night, because it is a book that you really cannot put down. So the third book I have selected is the first ever psychological thriller that I have read, I believe, which is Tell Me Your Dreams by Sidney Sheldon, one of my favorite authors. Tell Me Your Dreams is about three women. That is how it is shown in the book. It begins with three women who are working in the same IT company, and they find themselves entangled in a mystery, a murder that is quite surprising. No one knows who committed that murder, and very surprisingly, it is revealed that all these three women have been in the spot of the murder. As the story progresses, we learn that these three are actually not three women. I'm not going to tell further, because if I tell you what it is, it will spoil the entire storyline. But all I will tell you is that this story talks about the psychological condition called multiple personality disorder. I learned about that disorder from this book, and then I read about that particular disorder as well, because it was so interesting to know about it, which is about a split personality that may happen due to a childhood trauma. And this book is very educating. It is very intellectually stimulating for sure, but it contains a bit of a violent and a graphic content, so I do not recommend it to people with sensitive hearts. So the next book I have here is The Silent Patient. Now this book was one of the most sensational psychological thrillers in the years 2019, 2020, and I could not wait to get my hands on this book at that time. And I'm going to tell you that I was not disappointed in any way after reading this book. This again is a very fast-paced book, and you can easily read it within a couple of days. And this story begins with a woman again called Alicia, and she has been found in the spot in which her husband has been murdered, and she looks like the only suspect for her husband's death, for her husband's murder. But very surprisingly, she does not utter a single word in her husband's trial, in her husband's murder trial. And this leaves the authorities in confusion as to what has actually happened. But there is no confusion as to who killed him, because she could be the only person who killed him, because she was found with a pistol in her hand, which is very clear evidence. And then the story begins to change when a therapist called Theo comes to this institution, and he is obsessed with making Alicia talk. He tries different methods to make her talk. He tries making her draw, and he tries different methods, but none of it becomes successful for a long time. But for some reason, he is very insistent on making her talk. And as the story progresses, we come across several surprising, unpredictable twists that links Theo to Alicia in a previously unforeseen way. I'm not going to tell you anything about it further because then I might be spoiling the story for you. So if you're interested in this kind of stories, this is a book that you should not miss. The fifth book I have selected is The Girl Before, which is the most recent psychological thriller that I read. I just finished reading it and I found that this book is very different from the other psychological thrillers that I have read, and this story makes you travel back and forth between the present and the past. Let me elaborate it. It is based on two girls who have and who is living in an apartment, a very wonderful and spacious and a very unique apartment. So one girl is living in this apartment now, and another girl has lived there and has died. So this story intersects between these two girls' lives, and we come to learn that very similar incidents have happened to both these girls, and it makes us wonder what could be the reason behind it. And the girl who lives in the apartment in the present, Jane, becomes obsessed as to what happened to the girl who lived there before her, because it sort of becomes evident to her that whatever is happening to her now must have happened to the girl who had lived there before. So she begins learning the journey of the girl who has lived there before. That is why it's called The Girl Before, and it has another underlining meaning to it as well, which you will learn as you read the book. And this book is all about psychological obsession and creepiness, and what you think at the beginning and in the middle of the book will take a 360-degree turn as you reach the end of the book. So it contains very surprising plot twist as well, and this is again a very fast-paced book. I read it I think within a couple of days, and it has made me stay awake throughout the nights because so those are just 5 of the good psychological thrillers that I have read, but there are many more which I'm not going to discuss in this video because I do not want to make it too long. But if you have the time, I would recommend you to read books like Sharp Objects, and then There Were None by Agatha Christie, the classic mystery queen, and there are many more which I will comment below if I can recall. So those are some of the finest psychological thrillers that I have come across, and do let me know if there are other books that I should try, because this is my favorite genre, like I have said at the beginning of the video. And you do not only get the pleasure of reading by reading these kind of books, you learn a lot of things about different psychological dimensions that the people might be coming from, and it will make you more empathetic when dealing with people who are maybe having different psychological conditions to your own, and it will make you look at the realities in the world in a different and a more rational way. So therefore, I think reading these kind of books are very important for your personal and intellectual growth as well. So happy reading, and see you again with a new video about a new book. Bye.